A strange thing has started happening with AI. People no longer ask themselves what they think before asking the machine what it thinks. You can feel it in meetings, emails, even casual conversations. I've caught myself doing that as well. Years ago, I would have simply pursued an idea and discovered whether it worked or not through trial and error. Now there's a temptation to seek instant validation first, which is slightly dangerous, especially when the validator has been engineered to sound reassuring. And to be clear, this is not an anti-AI argument. I use AI constantly. It saves time, reduces friction, accelerates learning, and removes an extraordinary amount of repetitive work. Some of the productivity gains are genuinely impressive. The problem is not using AI. The problem is quietly outsourcing judgment to it before your own judgment has fully developed. Those are very different things. People often talk about AI replacing jobs in dramatic terms, as though robots will arrive carrying your laptop out of the building. The more realistic risk is calmer and far less cinematic. You can already see small versions of this happening. Someone encounters a difficult problem and the first instinct is no longer, how would I approach this? It's rather, what does AI suggest? Again, that sounds harmless. Sometimes it is harmless. But there's a difference between using a calculator and forgetting arithmetic entirely. One amplifies capability while the other slowly replaces it. Expertise is not just knowing answers, it's developing enough internal understanding to recognize when an answer is flawed, incomplete, or strangely confident for no apparent reason. AI is very good at producing plausible language. Plausible language and sound judgment are not identical twins. What makes this more complicated is that AI often feels intelligent enough to trust emotionally before it is reliable enough to trust universally. The tone matters, and humans are vulnerable to confidence delivered calmly. If a chatbot writes 3 polished paragraphs explaining why your idea is amazing, your brain quietly interprets that as agreement from something competent. Never mind that the same system would probably support your plan to launch a premium bottled tap water subscription for left-handed accountants, if prompted carefully enough. Apparently formatted certainty now carries surprising psychological authority. Chatbots are designed to be cooperative. Agreement is part of the product experience. People say they want AI to challenge them, but many users mainly want a highly articulate system that says, yes, that seems sensible, in a calm, professional tone. We have essentially automated external validation and wrapped it in a clean interface design. There's also a skill-building issue underneath all this. A large part of expertise comes from struggling with uncertainty long enough to build judgment. You try approaches that fail. You misread situations. You make inefficient decisions. Gradually, you develop instincts that are difficult to teach directly because they were earned through accumulated mistakes. AI compresses that uncomfortable process, which is useful right until people begin bypassing the process entirely. The gap between I don't know and here is a polished answer has collapsed to a few seconds. Convenient, yes, of course, but friction was also quietly teaching people things. And friction is unpopular partly because it feels inefficient in the moment. And sometimes, of course, we want to remove it. I do as well. Nobody enjoys staring at a difficult problem for 3 hours only to discover the solution was embarrassingly simple. But those hours were often where capability developed. If every uncertain moment immediately gets outsourced to an assistant, people may become highly efficient while remaining strangely fragile underneath. A person can appear productive for quite a long time before anyone notices they've stopped building independent competence. Modern software already hides enormous complexity from users. AI risks, in my opinion, hiding the thinking process itself. There's also an economic angle at play that almost nobody discusses seriously. Some AI providers have already started operating on token-based pricing models. Right now, most organizations seem willing to absorb the cost because the productivity gains appear worthwhile. Fair enough. But if costs rise significantly over time, companies may begin restricting access, limiting usage, or reducing availability to certain teams. At that point, you could end up with workers who became deeply dependent on AI-assisted workflows without fully developing their own underlying capabilities. That creates an awkward scenario. Imagine someone who spent years working with constant AI support suddenly needing to perform their job without it, either entirely or with less AI. Not because AI disappeared, but because budgets changed, systems failed, licensing shifted, or access became restricted. The interesting question is not whether they can still work, of course they can. The question is how much genuine depth exists underneath the assistance layer. AI can increase output dramatically. It can also mask weak foundations remarkably well, which is comforting if your long-term strategy involves uninterrupted subscriptions and perfect infrastructure forever. This is why AI tends to benefit experts disproportionately. Someone who already understands their field deeply can use AI to move faster, test ideas quicker, explore alternatives, and remove repetitive friction. But if the system disappears tomorrow, the expertise remains. And that is very different from building an entire professional identity around navigating AI prompts skillfully while never fully understanding the domain itself. Prompting can be useful, but there's a limit to how far linguistic confidence can substitute for actual comprehension. Eventually, reality insists on participating in the discussion. And this applies far beyond technical roles. Judgment matters in management, writing, design, law, strategy, research, analysis, hiring, negotiation, and countless ordinary decisions people make every single day. AI can assist with all of these tasks, of course, and sometimes it does it brilliantly, but assistance is not the same thing as ownership of thought. A person still needs enough independent reasoning ability to decide when the system is wrong, shallow, biased, or just too confident for no reason. Some people already treat AI outputs like objective truth simply because the formatting looks organized. Spreadsheets and bullet points have always had this effect on humanity. There's another contradiction hidden inside the productivity conversation. People assume faster answers automatically produce better thinking. Sometimes they do, sometimes they simply produce more answers. Speed and understanding are related, but not interchangeable. If someone reaches conclusions instantly for years with constant assistance, they may lose tolerance for ambiguity entirely. The moment uncertainty appears, the instinct becomes to ask the machine, which gradually changes the relationship people have with thinking itself. Reflection starts feeling inefficient. Independent reasoning begins to resemble unnecessary manual labor from an older technological era. The irony is that AI works best when paired with strong human judgment. The better your judgment, the more useful the system becomes because you can interrogate outputs intelligently instead of accepting them passively. Skilled users know when to push back, refine, test, reject, or ignore what the model has produced. Less experienced users often assume polished output equals reliable output, which is understandable. Humans have always confused confidence with competence. AI simply industrialized the experience and made it available 24 hours a day with excellent response times. None of this means people should resist AI or pretend productivity tools are morally suspicious. That would be ridiculous. The gains are real. The capabilities are remarkable. Refusing to engage with these systems would be like refusing to use search engines because books existed already. The issue is balance. AI should accelerate the development of capability, not quietly replace the process of building it. Otherwise, we risk producing people who can operate systems fluently while becoming less comfortable thinking through problems independently when those systems are unavailable or uncertain. The people who probably thrive long-term won't necessarily be the ones using AI most aggressively. They'll be the ones who know when to trust it, when to question it, and when to stop asking it for reassurance. That balance matters because judgment is difficult to rebuild once dependency becomes habitual. A tool should expand your thinking, not gradually become a substitute for having to think in the first place. AI is useful, but there's a meaningful difference between using intelligence and renting the feeling of having it. Humanity has always enjoyed shortcuts. We've just made the shortcut conversational now. Thank you for watching.